ਕਈ ਸਾਲਾਂ ਦੇ ਇੰਟਰਨੈਸ਼ਨਲ ਟਾਰਗੇਟਸ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਸਨ ਉਹ ਪੂਰੇ ਕੀਤੇ ਗਏ ਇਮੀਗ੍ਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਡਿਪਾਰਟਮੈਂਟ ਵੱਲੋਂ, ਲੇਕਿਨ ਪਿਛਲੇ ਕੁਝ ਸਮੇਂ ਤੋਂ ਸਖਤਾਈ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਵਧਾ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਗਈ ਹੈ। ਪਰ ਦੂਸਰੇ ਪਾਸੇ ਲੋਕ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕਿ ਇਸ ਦੇ ਹੱਕ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਕਹਿ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ ਕਿ ਘੱਟ ਇਮੀਗ੍ਰੈਂਟਸ ਆਉਣ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਇਹ ਦੇਸ਼ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰੈਸਿਵ ਹੋਏਗਾ। But of late, for the past about a year and so, we are seeing that everything is being cut off.
The reason I'm saying this because sometimes people assess everything with very short history in mind, like maybe 2 years or 3 years. But I measure my memory and practice since mid-90s. Government is a big bureaucratic system, and it reminds me big ship. And if you want to turn around, or if you have a hole on one side, on one board of the ship, you run there and try to fix it, and then you run another side because another hole appeared, and then you try to fix all holes together.
Canada, which was once considered to be the most immigration-friendly country, that reality is changing, and people are now planning to go to other countries instead of Canada. Welcome to this conversation on the Harpreet Singh show. ਕਈ ਸਾਲਾਂ ਦੇ ਇੰਟਰਨੈਸ਼ਨਲ ਟਾਰਗੇਟਸ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਸਨ ਉਹ ਪੂਰੇ ਕੀਤੇ ਗਏ ਇਮੀਗ੍ਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਡਿਪਾਰਟਮੈਂਟ ਵੱਲੋਂ, ਲੇਕਿਨ ਪਿਛਲੇ ਕੁਝ ਸਮੇਂ ਤੋਂ ਸਖਤਾਈ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਵਧਾ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਗਈ ਹੈ। ਜਿੱਥੇ ਕਿ ਕ੍ਰਿਟਿਕਸ ਨੇ ਉਹ ਤਾਂ ਬੜੇ ਖੁਸ਼ ਨੇ ਕਿ ਜੀ ਚੰਗਾ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾ ਰਿਹਾ, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਪ੍ਰੈਸ਼ਰ ਪੈ ਰਿਹਾ ਸੀ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਉਹ ਘਟਦਾ ਪਿਆ ਹੈ, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਇਮੀਗ੍ਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਟਾਰਗੇਟ ਸੈੱਟ ਕੀਤਾ ਗਿਆ ਸੀ ਉਹ ਬੜਾ ਬਾਈਪਾਸ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ ਸੀ, ਅਤੇ ਭਾਵੇਂ ਉਹ ਹੈਲਥ ਸਰਵਿਸਿਜ਼ ਸੀ, ਇਨਫਰਾਸਟਰਕਚਰ ਸੀ ਜਾਂ ਸਾਡਾ ਹਾਊਸਿੰਗ ਸੀ, ਉਸ 'ਤੇ ਇੰਪੈਕਟ ਪੈ ਰਿਹਾ ਸੀ। ਪਰ ਦੂਸਰੇ ਪਾਸੇ ਲੋਕ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕਿ ਇਸ ਦੇ ਹੱਕ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਕਹਿ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ ਕਿ ਘੱਟ ਇਮੀਗ੍ਰੈਂਟਸ ਆਉਣ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਇਹ ਦੇਸ਼ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰੈਸਿਵ ਹੋਏਗਾ। ਇਹਨਾਂ ਮੁੱਦਿਆਂ 'ਤੇ ਅੱਜ ਅਸੀਂ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰਨੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਕੀ ਇੰਪੈਕਟ ਪਿਆ ਇਸ ਇਮੀਗ੍ਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਦਾ, ਕਿਉਂ ਇੰਨੀ ਸਖਤਾਈ ਕੀਤੀ ਜਾ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ। ਅਤੇ ਮੇਰਾ ਸਾਥ ਦੇਣਗੇ ਡਾਕਟਰ ਐਲੈਕਸ ਡਿਟੋਫ, ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕਿ ਇੱਕ ਸੀਨੀਅਰ ਇਮੀਗ੍ਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਕੰਸਲਟੈਂਟ ਹੈਗੇ ਨੇ। ਡਾਕਟਰ ਐਲੈਕਸ, ਵੈਲਕਮ ਟੂ ਦ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ।
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So first of all, what I would like to know from you is that you have been in this immigration field for a long time, and there was a time when the floodgates had been opened by the Canadian government for immigrants, but of late, for the past about a year and so, we are seeing that everything is being cut off. And how do you see this impact of the government policies? What is happening in the immigration system?
Well, thank you for asking this question, Harpreet. And I would probably remind people, since I live long enough and practice long enough, that there is nothing new in this world. The reason I'm saying this because sometimes people assess everything with very short history in mind, like maybe 2 years or 3 years. But I measure my memory and practice since mid-90s. And there was a time when immigration went through extremely dramatic changes. Point system was established, then point system changed to another size and accent on certain categories. And then it was a simplified point system. And then it was interview that basically decided the fate of the application. And then the new act, ERPA, was introduced yearly in this century, and then we go into something very significant like 2015 changes. So what we observe today, partially, it's not something new, and people panic because of severity of these measures, not because it's new in principle. Let me explain, if I may, for 1 minute. Government is a big bureaucratic system, and it reminds me big ship. And if you want to turn around, or if you have a hole on one side, on one board of the ship, you run there and try to fix it, and then you run another side because another hole appeared, and then you try to fix all holes together. And what government is doing, unfortunately, they sometimes prefer to put it to the halt, like stop it now and let's see what we do. And that's what we technically observe, because sometimes people say, oh, they punish this category, or they punish everyone. At the end, everybody lose. And as if I understood Punjabi correctly, in my limited ability, you absolutely correctly said, and correct me if I'm wrong, that government of Canada very irresponsibly blame immigrants for everything, every problem on earth. Oh, you have a shortage in real estate. Oh, real estate is not moving fast. Oh, that's immigrants, right? Or unaffordability problem, or social housing problem, or social system pressure. And government blame immigrants because immigrants are very convenient target. Let's accept that. And many immigrants don't understand because they move from the systems, and by plural, I mean systems where they don't want to be. That's why they move, because we have to look at the core of migration, the core idea of migration, why people move. Family reunification. We're talking about better future for kids, better conditions for themselves, for families, maybe loved ones here, and people want to join and get married and sponsor each other. It's all legitimate all legitimate reasons, but one underlying problem for immigration that it has to work smoothly to help people to move. But then, just like any system, if it's becoming too accessible or some loopholes appeared, people use it. It's a human nature. People use almost like a water drip somewhere where the hole appears, right? Like it doesn't matter. And eventually that hole becomes better. The loophole is something that government cannot tolerate or rather cannot fix. Well, we leave aside reasons why they cannot fix, because they cannot fix sometimes because they're incompetent, or sometimes they hire people who came from another sphere of or industry or sphere of business, and they're simply incapable of doing the fixing. I always tell people, if you want a electrician to fix plumbing problem, that's not going to work, most likely. So you have to train professionals. But how to train professionals in a very active environment? Well, I always tell people, in my like military background, it's impossible to train the army during the war. You have to have prepared army. And that's exactly what we're talking about. Soldiers must be prepared and trained before the war starts. After that, you just pray that they will survive. So, bottom line, I don't think we have systemic problem. Honestly, I am very big believer that it's not systemic for Canada, and I'll explain why if you want to explore that part. But I think it's temporary, and government is trying to fix it clumsy, not systemically good, but they're trying to do the best.
Right. But in this, what we found, Alex, is that the immigrants were made the scapegoats for the incompetencies of the government. And right now, Canada, which was once considered to be the most immigration friendly country, that reality is changing. And people are now planning to go to other countries instead of Canada. But on the other hand, the changes that are being brought by the government, what are the biggest immigration trends that you are seeing that are changing in the past year or two?
Well, first of all, if we're talking about trends, we have to look in the future. If we're talking about changes, we probably sometimes have to assess current and past situations. So let me break it in very brief terms. Future. Well, I think we have to understand the past, what led to this situation of overloading, backlog in certain categories enormously, and delays obviously appeared, and that kind of led to the closure or limitations of certain problems. What happened to students, it's very unfair. This is absolutely knee-jerk reaction, and basically government made students, like you rightly said, scapegoats. And I think it's unfair because students are the future of this country. And people have to acknowledge that majority of smart, talented people, that's what we call brain drain, go into some other countries, starting from some European countries, looking back, again, looking back to the US, even though Canada kind of turned that tide towards Canadian education for the last 10 years. But I think it's coming back because the pain that this irresponsible government actions caused, it's enormous. Look at educational institutions. Look at the even government try to protect public institutions and trying to say, well, we don't really care what happened to private institutions, but both categories suffering now. And that's what happened when you irresponsibly close the border for students. So now what they say, okay, we will start reopening, but selectively. But you asked me a very good question, Harpreet. I want to address that. Where are we going? What are the trends? Well, I think the trends are toward what I call meritocracy, which is you have some skills, you have to be rewarded, you have to be accepted. So people who possess certain skills, they will be required here simply because Canada is the country with, I'm not saying diminishing population, but stagnated population because baby boomers going to retire. We have to accept, I'm a baby boomer, I'm 60. So I know I'm active. I try to maintain myself and be in sport and everything, but I'm a life person. So baby boomers going to retire very soon, maybe another 20 years. But that's exactly the time to bring what we call fresh blood. People who can bring educated power to this enormous economy that's supposed to function somehow. So that's a trend of meritocracy. I call it meritocracy. Government doesn't call it that way. Second trend, restructuring of express entry system, which is absolutely revolutionary system around the world. We have the best. We just have to polish it and retune. I call it, when piano going out of tune, you have to retune it and you have to kind of fix it, right? So that's exactly what's going on right now. Sometimes people over dramatize the situation and say, "Oh my God, can Canada cannot become a dump because Canada need fresh blood." That's my position.
So basically, what you're saying is it's a pause and reset policy, and not a permanent reduction of, immigrants in Canada.
No, 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 not by any sense, by any means. And I can argue with people, but you used a very wise word. And I want to praise you for that because not many people use it. Reset. That's exactly what we're going through. They need to reset. They need to get rid of certain things and they need to restart certain things. They need to select. I'm not, God forbid, I am not giving them, an excuse to government because they did a lot of bad things. So it's not an excuse for them. But the system requires reset, and system reset sometimes going painful because try to reboot a computer, you lose all the data, right? So that sort of thing. And I think personally, since you used that word first, I praise you again for that. Reset is going on right now. But can Canada afford big loan reset? No. I think the big reset will happen this year by establishing new immigration targets, because government of Canada right now, don't forget, it's always a struggle, but now it looks like we have more or less a systemic approach coming back. We see processing returning. We see some initiatives from immigration because we deal with full spectrum of immigration cases, from immigration, permanent temporary residency, sponsorship. We're talking about very difficult cases when people get in PFL, which is very normal. By the way, I want to address that trend too, and citizenship too. And people going into citizenship sometimes facing problems as well. So they need professional service. But what another trend, since you ask about the future, first of all, it's not cancellation of the immigration policy altogether. Second, it's a reset. Second is orientation towards professional immigration in a very serious manner. And thirdly, I think government of Canada is supposed to and must, because of economic situation and to compete with other jurisdictions around the world, government of Canada will introduce a new entrepreneur program on a federal level, because we need people who create jobs, who build businesses, who hire Canadians, and bring money. Let's be honest, because Canada requires those people, and I'm not sure if it will be equivalent of programs that we have south of the border, or it will be some equivalent of Australian immigration, New Zealand, or European. But it has to be more efficient. That's the bottom line, and that's what we have. We all concerned about one thing: why it takes so long.
Absolutely. Right. So the worst affected have been international students and temporary foreign workers. Do you think, Alex, that in the past the government was too much dependent upon temporary foreign workers instead of building long-term immigration solutions?
Very good point, actually. Very good vantage point, Harpreet. I think personally, my impression is that you know the term inertia. By first degree, I'm nuclear physicist, so I invoke some physical physics terminology. But inertia is something that you start and push, and it goes by itself until it stops. So that inertia started before two elections back, and immigrants became, due to certain political tendencies within previous Trudeau government, which was disastrous, but it was like 3 or 4 years ago. It was something very interesting because it was an objective reality and subjective reality. Objective was COVID. Pandemic hit economy hard, and people people's mentality changed. I think personally, people's mentality changed during pandemic for many reasons. And we leaving aside the nature of this pandemic, but it happened, and it changed the economy as well as mentality and social fabric of the society. So what I mean by that is that was the point when government said, "Oh, we don't have time for this minor thing." But that's exactly how it works. Like for example, let me give you example that families understand. You sign some bill and your credit card drained every month, little by little. But overall, at the end of the year, your wife coming home and saying, "Harpreet, what the hell happened? How we spend $3,000 a year?" And you say, "I don't know, it was like $3 a day." Something like that. So you let something go little by little, put your eyes away from this problem, and that problems grow. And that's exactly what happened. Why? Community, especially East Asian community, but by the way, across the world, across the across all communities, we observe abuse. Why? Well, imagine the store that has no alarm system and it's left open. And one time, one thief came, but then he came back with the group of friends. And then the whole street of thieves know that it's open and you can steal. I guess morally clean people and honest people will stay away, but society divided for bad people and good people. We know that. And bad people grow in volume and start abusing system. And that's what government observed. By the time they realize, oh, we have this abuse going on because people from Gujarat, from Delhi consulates all over India and other countries, I just give an example because we're talking to community, they realize the problem went too far. The problem is actually too severe to solve by they try, by the way, they try to put special assessment and special reviews, and they give up. That's what government do best. They used to give up, and that's unfortunately what we're dealing with. And when they give up, they said, "Oh, we better close it. We better shut it down."
You're right. But here it is alleged that the Canadian dream was oversold. And again, it is again pointed out that many immigration consultants were partly responsible for this. While the government says that misuse and fraud force stricter policies. How serious is this problem and how would you address it?
I would address it how I address it when talking to Minister of Immigration, and I did last year. And we're talking about people who we deal on a parliamentarian level. When we report the problem, we always invoke this concern. You try to regulate regulated consultants. What about ghost consultants who are unlicensed but charge money? And because they charge little, little by little, they are not that severely like harming people. But no, they do, because they charge money. They sell them. They sold what we call a Canadian dream. And then what? And people came here, and those consultants disappear. And since they disappear, nobody can complain. Government is trying to regulate consultants and lawyers, but ignore the major problem: ghost consultants. And imagine how many ghost consultants are in Canada and how many ghost consultants are overseas. And that's the major problem. All they need to do, just say, and I think the problem with this government, they cannot mentally comprehend how to market immigration right. Sometimes we joke, like our YouTube channel has almost 250,000 subscribers, because people hungry for knowledge, people hungry for knowing what's going on, and we sick and tired of selling Canada's good part, because government doesn't do that. So answering your question, yes, consultants, sometimes lawyers, but mostly ghost consultants, contributed enormous amount of bad things. We call them bad apples. But the problem with bad apples, I know a lot of farmers in the community, but you know what happened if one bad apple put in a bucket of good apples? Very soon you see all apples around getting rotten.
Yeah, but some bad apples who are not ghost consultants, who are immigration consultants working from Canada also, have been responsible in the way of way LMIAs have been sold, fake letters have been brought forward. So that has brought a bad reputation to the entire industry as such, and people are bewailing now. They are afraid to come forward, and the system is in a mess. Nevertheless, you touched about the future way which Canada is adopting about merit, about pausing and resetting its policies. But on the other hand, what do you think? Will it become more difficult now to obtain permanent residency in Canada in the future?
Difficulty of every immigration system is a very, I think, is a very relative term. Why? Compare it to what? Compare it to Canadian system before, or compare it to American system, or compare it to Australian or New Zealand. See, we're talking about again, physicists talking in me, multi-layered system of comparison. But let's be fair. Is it going to be more difficult? Depends, another layer, for whom. If you young talented student and you legitimately apply for university and you coming in and you study hard and you get your degree and you prove that you can be employed, it shouldn't be difficult at all. And it will not be. My vision is it will not be. Will it be difficult for people who buy LMIA and come here and pay and lose all the money and fallen victims? Yes, that would be more difficult because it will be virtually impossible, which is kind of good part of filtering, I guess, good people and bad people. Because if you're willing to buy stolen stuff, are you a good person or you part of the crime? See, accessory of like staying silent when somebody killing someone, I think it's accessory to murder, something like that, or hiding the killer. So that's something people have to understand. I'm not blaming. I know some psychologists, they have this phenomenon called the victim mentality, like some people walking to be abused, just waiting for reason to be abused. I'm not talking about that. And I'm not saying all people who fall victims of SALT, LMIA, and this and that are innocent, of course, because they knew what they were doing. But the problem is sometimes it was so much camouflage as a legitimate offer. And because it was camouflage as a legitimate offer, well, I guess what happened is quite simple. Many people fall victims of that. But again, I always tell people, by the way, we have incredible video, like 3 simple steps how you can check if you're in the right place in the right time and with the right person in terms of immigration. I think what people mentally, they drop the guard. They simply drop the guard. They talk to people. They had that feeling. Many victims actually came to me, coming and still coming sometimes for consultations, because we provide consultations even not to our clients, of course. And they complain about things, and when they talk and I ask them, when was the first time you felt something is wrong? And they say, Dr. Alex, you cannot believe, but it was the second meeting or the third meeting, or before I pay the money, or when I was asked to pay money and do it fast, or do it in cash, or do it undercover. So I said, see, you miss those signals, you drop the guard, and again, can you blame someone for that? Of course.
That's right, because they dropped the guards, as you said, because they were in the process and they were thinking that their work will be done, and now that work has not been done. And of course, all the blame goes now to the consultants only, and nobody is ready to accept their faults. When they were seeing the red flags, why didn't they stop at that time and come forward and start working on that? But nevertheless, keeping the time in mind, what advice would you like to give to thousands and thousands of those youngsters and temporary foreign workers who are now going to be without work permits, and many of them are still being told to adopt some way by which they can stay back in Canada? What would be your advice to those who are already in Canada but are in an impasse where their papers are not going to be, they're going to be statusless? What should they do?
Very good question. Well, I will say what I preach and I will do what I preach. We always tell people who fall victims of any kind of either crime or delay or dishonest behavior from consultant or lawyer or even by themselves. First of all, believe in yourself. If you give up on yourself, you're done. It's over. Second, you have to be very honest with yourself. Yes. Remember the old saying, Harpreet, if you cheat me once, it's your fault. But if you cheat me the second time, it's my fault. So I think people have to assess very honestly. Yes, I was cheated. Yes, I missed what you said, red flags, and it's my fault partially. Yes, I'm a victim, but I'm not going to be victim forever. I want to take matters in my own hands. So first, what they do, if they work for provincial nominee program employer, that's another category that's covered because they have special program for people who got defrauded or cheated or something happened or company went out of business. So explore that. For LMIA victims, they also allow federal government allows certain relief measures, like you can find another employer. You can, and for students, of course, there is always an option to switch institution or see if you can be qualified for postgraduate work permit or something else. What's the underlying advice we give? Take a consultation. I mean, it's not something people say, well, Dr. Alex, I only charge, like, my consultations are fairly expensive, but people who in business or companies who face trouble with employees or foreign workers or really need to help, like own category, like entrepreneur and provincial nominee, yeah, they order my consultation. But we have incredible consultants in our office who consult and advise on a situational analysis basis. Why? Because every person is different.
Is different, absolutely. And on the other hand, while you said that, of course, every person is different and they should be taking consultation from the right persons. On the other hand, what reforms would you recommend to the government to make the immigration system fairer and more sustainable?
Well, first of all, and by the way, 2 days ago, I talked to Mr. Poliver and I asked him a question, which I was allowed among other people who was there. Um, I can tell you this. My question was, first of all, please stop blaming all immigrants for all the rotten problems of the system. It's unfair, it's unjust, it's not doing you a good service, it's not doing country a good service. If you blame immigrants, see, the old saying goes, opportunity doesn't go away, it goes to someone else. People are smart. If they don't go to this country, they will go somewhere if they want to leave their own country, right? So people will find a way. Question is, why not Canada? Canada, in my view, is a great potential. And that's what I'm telling people in government right now. You have to promote Canada. You have to attract people. And by the way, Mr. Bolivar agreed. We need to clarify that message. I said, perfect. Clarify the message. Stop blame all the immigrants, without exception, for all the systemic problems that this society has, economy, political crisis, everything. Don't blame immigrants. Be selective. Praise them for good immigration, wave after wave after wave. And by the way, I think before the show we talked a little bit about that. Even people from own communities who immigrated one generation ago or a few decades ago see new people, and this division is growing because government is falling this far of instead of helping people be together, understand each other and help. What happened to us? They try to antagonize, and that's what this group mentality is. That's why I don't like it, because this mentality of separation, diversity instead of community feeling. But diversity was a great thing, unless it became terrible thing when everybody was looking at the other group as enemy, or at least suspiciously. Yeah. So I think my advice to government: first, stop this stigmatizing efforts from your side, because many people came from community where if they see it on TV, they trust it. Establish that trust, that people can trust you. You say what you do and you do what you say. And I think shows like yours are very indicative of that tendency of good, honest approach to actual problem. So again, wise man said once, if you know the if you know the problem, you have half of the solution. So first, identify the problem. Second, identify approach of punishment for bad people, like really bad people. You get caught, that's it. You have to be punished. But don't tell. It's like me coming and saying, "Oh, all doctors are charlatans." What your medical practitioner would say, "I'm not," and hundreds of thousands of other doctors would say, "We're not." Yeah, but we have couple. All doctors charlatans, all bankers, all fraudsters. What you talking about? Like seriously? So we have to, second thing, just stop taking everybody as one people. Okay, we're all different, and you have to separate, and you have to show an example. And thirdly, I would say encourage people to come to Canada. If you wish, that's what I call to trade commissioners and consulates around the world. When I travel, I meet them and I talk to them and say, "Why are you not promoting Canada?" "Oh, we helping certain entrepreneurs." No, 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 no. You have to promote Canada. People will come if you establish the good image. Speaking of, we have very nice, like a playlist of Destination Canada. We explain why Canada is so rich and different. And people tend to like it because we have thousands of views on that alone on that playlist. So 3 categories: stop stigmatizing everybody, stop punishing everyone for one person's guilt, and promote Canada as a great country, because it is a great country.
It is no doubt a great country, but along with that, the fourth I would like to recommend is that the government needs to start working on developing the infrastructure, create that infrastructure to welcome the newcomers so that they don't feel that they have been just dumped in the lurch and they have nowhere else to go. There's a lot more to talk, but I would like to end up this session today with one question, and in one sentence, in your view, Dr. Alex, has Canada's immigration system become more realistic or less welcoming?
It's going there. My true belief, it's going there. We're on the right path. We just need to do certain things. Yeah. And I hope we will.
It was a pleasure talking to you. And while you talked about that you have a lot of videos which people can watch, where can they go and watch these videos?
Oh, very easy. Our YouTube channel, Any Visa Immigration, all one word, Any Visa Immigration. Just Google that, and you will see hundreds of videos, all on the subject of immigration, Canada, and how to prevent fraud and how to protect yourself and how to feel better. I like that. I always tell people, you matter. You matter. If you give up on yourself, doesn't matter what people do for you, doesn't matter.
Once again, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Harpreet.
So today we have just touched the surface of all these issues, what immigration system in Canada is facing, but definitely there is much more which needs to be delved upon, and we need to work on that. But definitely, as Dr. Alex has pointed out, these are basic issues which need to be addressed. While we ask the government to be responsible, definitely within our own communities also we see a lot of things which are not happening in the right direction. We should have the courage to come up and speak about those so that those bad apples are not ruining or tarnishing the image of the entire community. ਸੋ ਅੱਜ ਦਾ ਇਹ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਹੈ ਜੀ ਜਿਸ ਵਿੱਚ ਡਾਕਟਰ ਐਲੈਕਸ ਨੇ ਕਈ ਮਹੱਤਵਪੂਰਨ ਇਸ਼ੂਜ਼ ਤੇ ਗੱਲ ਕੀਤੀ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਇੰਪੋਰਟੈਂਟ ਗੱਲ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕਹੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਇਹ ਰੀਸੈਟ ਹੋ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਦਾ ਇਮੀਗ੍ਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਸਿਸਟਮ। ਇਹ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਿ ਬੰਦ ਹੋ ਜਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ ਜਾਂ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਵੈਲਕਮ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੀ ਇੱਥੇ ਨਵੇਂ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਇਹ ਦੇਸ਼ ਉન્નਤੀ ਤਦ ਹੀ ਕਰੇਗਾ ਜਦੋਂ ਨਵੇਂ ਲੋਕ ਇੱਥੇ ਆ ਕੇ ਇਸਟੈਬਲਿਸ਼ ਹੋਣਗੇ। ਪੁਰਾਣੇ ਲੋਕ ਰਿਟਾਇਰ ਹੋ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ, ਬੁੱਢੇ ਹੋ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ, ਸਾਨੂੰ ਜ਼ਰੂਰਤ ਹੈ ਨਵੇਂ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਦੀ, ਪਰ ਉਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਹੀ ਲੋਕ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਜਦੋਂ ਇੱਥੇ ਆਉਣਗੇ ਤੇ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਓਵਰਸੋਲਡ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਜੀ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਨੂੰ ਕਿ ਇੱਥੇ ਆ ਕੇ ਦਰਖਤਾਂ ਤੇ ਪੇੜ ਤੇ ਪੈਸੇ ਲੱਗੇ ਨੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਮਾਓਗੇ, ਉਹ ਚੀਜ਼ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗੀ। ਚੈਲੰਜਸ ਨੇ ਬਟ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਓਵਰਕਮ ਅਸੀਂ ਸਾਰੇ ਹੀ ਰਲ ਮਿਲ ਕੇ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ। ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਕਮੀਆਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਆਸ-ਪਾਸ, ਸਰਕਾਰ ਨੂੰ ਅਸੀਂ ਅਕਾਊਂਟੇਬਲ ਬਣਾਈਏ, ਆਪ ਅਸੀਂ ਅਕਾਊਂਟੇਬਲ ਬਣੀਏ ਕਿ ਸਾਡੀ ਕੀ ਰਿਸਪੌਂਸਿਬਿਲਿਟੀ ਹੈ, ਬਿਕੋਜ਼ ਅਲਟੀਮੇਟਲੀ ਵੀ ਆਰ ਕੈਨੇਡੀਅਨਸ ਐਂਡ ਵੀ ਆਲ ਹੈਵ ਆਰ ਓਨ ਚੋਇਸ ਐਂਡ ਵਰਕ ਟੂ ਡੂ ਟੂ ਮੇਕ Canada further better, which is already good, but still wherever there are some kind of problems and challenges, we need to start working on those. ਸਮਾਂ ਕੱਢ ਕੇ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਵਿੱਚ ਸ਼ਾਮਲ ਹੋਣ ਲਈ ਆਪ ਸਭ ਦਾ ਬਹੁਤ ਬਹੁਤ ਧੰਨਵਾਦ। ਮੇਰੇ ਨਾਲ ਸੰਪਰਕ ਕਰਨਾ ਹੋਏ ਤਾਂ 6046037555 ਤੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸੰਪਰਕ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ ਜਾਂ ਫਿਰ ਈਮੇਲ ਕਰੋ harpreetsingh@gmail.com। ਲੈਣਾ ਆ ਗਿਆ, ਫਿਰ ਮੁਲਾਕਾਤ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ। ਹੈਵ ਅ ਵੰਡਰਫੁਲ ਡੇ।